We've been thinking about being big-hearted rather than small-minded. And the last few weeks, God's been encouraging us through the book of 1 Corinthians to be big-hearted people who love others and want to encourage them rather than being people who just insist on our rights and what we want and putting all of that ahead of everybody else. And in this letter that we've been reading, Paul reminds us of some of the traps that can cause us to kind of turn in on ourselves and become inward-looking and selfish rather than outward-looking and giving. And he reminds us by looking back to some of the Old Testament people and some of the traps that they fell into. He talks about the issue of hungering for things which will ultimately destroy us, about worshipping God's substitutes, engaging in immorality. He talks about putting the Lord to the test, and also just about generally wanting everything our own way and complaining all the time. And the way we can avoid these traps and keep growing onward and outward looking and into everything that God has for us is something that is found in verse 12 and 13 of that chapter, where it says, "If you think you're standing strong, be careful not to fall. The temptations in your life are no different from what others experience. And God is faithful. He will not allow the temptation to be more than you can stand. When you are tempted, he will show you a way out so that you can endure." And those words give us hope. There's some things they tell us. One of the things they tell us is this: don't think you're above it all. Some people think that they're kind of invincible. Don't think you're above it all. This is the bit of the Bible where we get in the old version the phrase, let him who stands take heed lest he fall. Okay, don't assume you're above it all. Secondly, remember, it's not just you. Okay, it's everybody who has this issue. The temptations are no different to what others experience. It's not just you. You can share and talk in our community about things that are a challenge. It's not just you. And then, third thing, know that God will help you endure. There's always a way out and beyond. And God is there and he gives that way, and there is always a way that he will enable you, if we want to take it, to keep going and endure and resist it. And finally, just to take one of the verses right at the end of the chapter, it says, whatever you eat or drink, whatever you do it all for the glory of God. And that's another way to defeat these things that would cause us to look inward and become selfish, is just to think bigger. Think the glory of God. Think it's all for him. And instead of having this inward-looking, closed perspective, make it outward-looking and big, so that it's bringing God into the picture and loving him and loving others. That is a way to live and flourish for God.